All right, guys, this one is First Samuel chapter 2, and it starts at verse 12. This one's going to get really weird. It's going to get really disturbing as well. Bella's going to, if we could hear her, she'd be like, ew, gross. Okay, so it's going to, it's going to get really awkward. So hold on to your hats and glasses because this here is going to be a wild ride. Get ready. All right. So, 1 Samuel 2:12. It's on page 412. Here we go. Eli's wicked sons. Okay. When you start out with something that says Eli's wicked sons, it's already not going to be good. For those of us who already know, Eli's the priest, right? He has two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, funny names, and they serve with him, and they're priests, and basically, you guys, they suck. They're awful, awful children, people, men. Children to Eli. They're horrible people, which is why it says wicked, and we'll get into it. All right, Eli's sons were scoundrels. They had no regard for the Lord. Now it was the practice of the priest that whenever any of the people offered a sacrifice, the priest's servant would come with a three-pronged fork in his hand while the meat was being boiled, and would plunge the fork into the pan or kettle or cauldron or pot. Whatever the fork brought up, the priest would take for himself. This is how they treated all the Israelites who came to Shiloh. But even before the fat was burned, the priest's servant would come and say to the person who was sacrificing, "Give the priest some meat to roast. He won't accept boiled meat from you, but only raw." So right away, something that they were supposed to do, right? The meat was supposed, with the three-pronged fork, was supposed to go into the pot, and then whatever they, stuck it, that's what the priest got. But now they're having one of their servants go to the people and say, "No, give the priest meat first." So already they're being greedy and they want choice meat before this meat gets offered to the Lord. They're ripping the Lord off. Is that a wise thing to do? Mm-mm. All right. So, and they're having some servant who's working for the temple do it. So this is bad. So if they've been doing this with a bunch of people, I'm visualizing Hophni and Phinehas being kind of chunky, right? They're probably being well fed because they're stealing from people, which is a gross visual. All right, verse 16. It says, if the person said to him, "Let the fat be burned first," right, which is biblical, "and then take whatever you want," the servant would answer, "No, hand it over now. If you don't, I'll take it by force." So now these people that are coming in that just want to worship God, now they're scared. Now they're doing things that are unbiblical, and they're being instilled with fear. Could you imagine if when you went to church, your like assistant of the pastor came up to you and was like, "Give me, money that you have now before you're going to put it in the offering. I want at least $10 for myself. Give that to me now, and then go put the rest in whatever." You'd be like, "Wait, what?" Right? That's ridiculous. Why would I give you money, right? And $10, that's not a big deal. It's probably more. I don't know how much, meat would be considered worth then, but if you think about it, what they're doing is so wrong. And you don't just give people of the church money, like the tithing that you tithe to the church, the people that are in charge, the elders and the deacons, they decide where that money goes for the church. It doesn't all go to the pastor. So if you have the pastor's assistant that is saying, "Hey, go get money from the tithing for me," like on the side, like that's kind of what it is. And it is super wrong, right? Because Hophni and Phinehas, they're already getting the meat that they're supposed to get. God already, had it all planned out how it was going to work out. But they didn't like it. That wasn't enough for them. That wasn't the meat that they wanted. So, just imagine a church where a pastor would do that to all of the people of his congregation. How do you think they would feel going, to church? They probably wouldn't want to go anymore, right? And these people came once a year to do this offering, right? I just can't even imagine how they were feeling by having to do this and be treated this way. It's not something that they would look forward to anymore, which is sad because you're doing something for the Lord and now it's not even like exciting and joyful anymore. All right, verse 17 says, "This sin of the young men was very great in the Lord's sight, for they were treating the Lord's offering with contempt. But Samuel was ministering before the Lord." Right? So Samuel was Hannah's cute little baby, right? And now it says, but Samuel, who was working there, he was doing what was right. So even though Eli's sons sucked, at least Eli was raising Samuel in the right way. So it says, I'm going to read it again, sorry. "But Samuel was ministering before the Lord, a boy wearing a linen ephod." Okay, so he was just a boy and he was doing what was right. Okay, so age means nothing. You guys are in 6th grade. It doesn't matter. You could be doing what's right before the 8th graders, 7th graders, whoever. Age doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's what you do before the Lord. All right. Verse 19. "Each year his mother made him a little robe and took it to him when she went up with her husband to offer the annual sacrifice. Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife, saying, 'May the Lord give you children by this woman to take the place of the one she prayed for and gave to the Lord.' Then they would go home." Get ready, Bella. Okay. Adria's probably going to laugh and Jada's going to be like, huh? Okay. "So then they would go home, and the Lord was gracious to Hannah, and she gave birth to 3 sons and 2 daughters. Meanwhile, the boy Samuel grew up in the presence of the Lord." Okay, so she had 3 sons and 2 daughters, right? She had 6 kids altogether, which is so great that the Lord blessed her in that way, right? So every time they left Ramah, they would have a kid. So Hannah was probably still pretty excited every time she went to go do an offering, because every time she came back, she ended up pregnant. Okay, moving along. Now Eli, who was very old, heard about everything his sons were doing to all Israel and how they slept with the women who served at the entrance to the tent meeting. So this is where it gets disturbing, okay? And you guys know, because we read in Judges, at like temples of false gods and stuff, they were doing naughty things with people there. And now it says in our God's own temple, it says that Hophni and Phinehas, right? It says that his sons were doing to all Israel and how they slept with the women who served at the entrance to the tent of meeting. So these women were serving the Lord, doing their job, but then Hophni and Phinehas would sleep with them. That's not okay, right? So not only are they stealing meat and they're instilling fear on people, now they're sleeping with women that they shouldn't be sleeping with. Not okay. And I guarantee you, the women were not happy about this either. Okay? All right, verse 23. "So he said to them, 'Why do you do such things? I hear from all the people about these wicked deeds of yours. No, my sons, the report I hear spreading among the Lord's people is not good. If one person sins against another, God may mediate for the offender. But if anyone sins against the Lord, who will intercede for them?'" Okay, so Eli calling his sons out, saying, "I'm hearing things. You guys are wrong, and no one is going to defend you because you are sinning against the Lord," right? But listen to how they handle it. "His sons, however, did not listen to their father's rebuke, for it was the Lord's will to put them to death." Right? So it's almost like God kind of allowed them to continue to be buttheads because God's like, nope, their punishment is death. They deserve death for what they're doing, right? All right, so verse 26, it says, "And the boy Samuel continued to grow in stature and in favor with the Lord and with the people." So I'm going to stop there for a little bit, but good night. Hophni and Phinehas were awful, right? And it shows you that Eli tried to rebuke them and talk to them and say, hey, what you're doing is wrong. I hear people talking. This is not okay. You are doing this against the Lord, right? But they're like, we don't care. We're going to keep doing this because no one can stop us. But what they don't realize is that they're stirring God's anger. So think about this. When you do things that are wrong, whether anyone sees you or not, God sees you. You don't want to stir up his anger, right? The best things that we can do are to be like Samuel and to find favor in the sight of the Lord. Do things that are right, whether anybody is looking or not. It is so easy to love the Lord because he is so lovable. It gets hard when our focus starts to go to other people and not to God. So my encouragement to you is focus on God, not all the craziness that's happening right now in the world, but on God, right? All right. Love you guys.